Hello guys, welcome to our channel. This is WvW. In today's video I want to talk about how to fight one of the heaviest, if not the heaviest, counter to Condition Druid, which is Spellbreaker. Spellbreaker is the sum of everything crazy with warrior, and if you can probably handle yourself against it, you can survive other warriors, but we'll be talking in general about warrior, but mainly Spellbreaker. So why Spellbreaker is this crazy powerful, and why it should be scary to you if you're playing Condition Ranger and most Condition builds, to be honest. So Spellbreaker have amount of tools that make it unstoppable through mobility, through survivability, and through control of the fight. Combine that with the damage. The weakness of Condition Druid is heavy CC with heavy enough damage, or basically if you have high power damage or a very high spike in damage in general, like multiple condition sources combined with power or whatever the source of damage, mainly power, and you can make sure to actually land it. Druids can't survive it because there is not much of a reduction to this damage or a complete mitigation, at least if we play in a condition form like mine. So there's no invulnerability, there is no stopping the damage, there's no ignoring it in a way. Like, you don't have unstoppable mobility like dueling stance combined with burst stance to remove in all conditions which give you a moment of immunity like Soulbeast. You don't have great sword like power builds, so you can have access to block with mobility and dodge. You don't have multiple stealth options like the change to bit, the smoke scale, like probably the upcoming spear for power builds if you're gonna use it, stuff like that. So you simply count on taking the damage, healing through it, kiting like mad, and counter pressuring the enemy through CC and your own DPS. And none of that really work on a Spellbreaker. Let's explain why. So the traits themselves, the most important two is this one. Revenge counter for condition builds and very unique builds, you won't see it much, and it will give you your condition back. And if the Spellbreaker playing a gimmicky condition build stuff, you have your own pressure landed back to you. You have their pressure, and if it's Celestia or something like that, they still have the power damage ramping up on you. They can still remove boons, they can still CC you like crazy, and all that land. But that's not the craziest or the most dangerous. The most dangerous is the normal build for the normal power Spellbreaker, which is Mage Pain Tether. It's a tether that will land on you with a burst skill, and if you have a larger distance between you and the Spellbreaker will land on you by 600 radius, 600 range, it will pull you to this distance. It lands for 8 seconds and it have a cooldown of 12. So basically they almost can keep it permanently. The 4 seconds of breathe time is worthless. So they can always land it again and again and again. And not only that, like we said, it's unblockable. So even if we, and we don't actually run, but even if we run a block, it will go through the block and will CC you. And even the skills they use to land it are unblockable, like fall counter and breaching strike with the dagger. Not only that, so those skills are unblockable. They will land a CC that's unblockable. They will keep you in melee, and in melee they have gap closers, multiple movement skills with CC is different. So you can't move far or they will pull you towards them, and even you can't move around them because they have better mobility than you and will still CC you, which make it very difficult. And you can even survive with stability most of the time because you can even burst through that. So Breaching Strike will remove 3 boons before it actually lands the damage. So it will remove the stability, it will remove the protection you want or use to reduce the damage coming to you. And then they will land other CC and another CC and go on and go on and go on. So they even maximize their damage, maximize their efficiency. You can't even like tank them with stability even for a moment to land your burst. So having something like Celestia Avatar Scale 5 or Natural Conversion, when you need to stand in place to cast your damage, they can simply let you load it on them and actually burst through your stability, interrupting you and landing their damage while you land nothing. And even if you landed something, they will ignore the immobilize, which we count on. We are basically an immobilized druid because of a trait like Warrior Sprint. Any movement skill will remove the immobilize completely, or they can, with multiple sorts of resistance like this one, ignore the immobilize like it doesn't work. And they have a lot of mobility too. And even if you ramp up the condition, they can remove condition with very strong condition cleanses like Shake It Off or Mending, which many of them actually use. Or this example, like we said, you can give it back, Weapon Swipe, Cleansing Sigils. there are multiple sources, even if they run in this trait, which mean they will remove on adrenaline bar removed. And every time they land the full counter stuff, they reset the cooldown of their other burst skills. This effect will happen if they hit a target with the full counter. So you should play well and you avoid the full counter. That can't happen with a ranger. Why? Because for a start, you will always trigger the full counter, whether you mean it or not, or at least most of the time. So even if you see the animation and you want to avoid it, if they have entangle on them, which will keep taking damage hits to trigger full counter, you can't stop it now. You land it, and if they time it well, they will time it with hits like this. Something like the Signet of the Wild, even the Black Hole effect. Skills you cast and you cannot stop them. They're already on the land, they're already working. And your bet also attack and so on. And even if you call it to you, you weaken yourself with your bet now. Can't really engage in the fight. And even if you avoid the full counter itself, your bet will get hit by the damage. You can't turn your bet passive, and your bet will not dodge. So they will trigger the full counter, they will reset their burst skills, and now they can keep bursting you again. So against the rangers, they keep even better flow of their skill. More adrenaline, more hits, more bursts, and go on and go on. And to continue with the problem, even traits like this. Shieldmaster. So a reflect for projectile, and even if you add in weapons that give you ages, like pistol, like staff, the ages will not pass out, because it's block, so it means it reflects. So since you are a projectile build, or mostly, all your hit will be reflected at you with some boon duration, even with a build like that, for extremely long time. You would have to ruin your own rotation, switch to staff early, or use Celestial Avatar skill just to remove the ages while the enemy is kiting, so you can't land your burst. So it messes even with your own rotation. So to summarize, they ignore the main sources of control you have with many sources of stability, like balance stance, and depends on the build, something like stomp, something like Doliac stance, even Rampage. They can have multiple layers, and even if they run in this trait, they will have Brave Stride, which means mobility skill will give them stability. So depending on what kind of build they actually running, they will have better mobility, they will ignore the main things you use, like immobilize, with the resistance, with the remove immobilize. They will ignore your CC and what you count on to control someone, immobilize and CC, and they can ignore both with the amount of stability they also have. While you can't avoid what they're doing, you can't survive their full counters, you can't survive their level of control, you don't have as much mobility as them, with the reveal even, so still not helping you this much. And you can't stop the power damage they landing on you. So how do you survive, or how do you fight in a place like that? So simply against a Spellbreaker who really know what they're doing. If you're both playing at the same skill level, you know the tricks, the jukes, you play the mind games, you calculate your skills, your timing, everything, you should not be able to win against Spellbreaker. It's an insanely heavy counter against you. It is as simple as that. However, that doesn't mean you have to lose. And remember, in reality, things doesn't really play this like by numbers. People will make mistake. A single misclick, as a bad timing. One of them will fall to a trick to the other person used. So one will lose eventually. So it's not impossible to beat Spellbreaker. And most of my fights against Warrior or Spellbreaker almost end very fast, and it's like a one shot. Like I avoid what they're doing, and it's not a big deal. I'm talking about the hardest or the heaviest level. If you really bro druid against a bro Spellbreaker. How do you fight that? So there is a specific tempo you need to keep against Spellbreaker in order to survive them or beat them. First, I hope you watched the survivability guide for druid, which is very general, but it helps keep the basic knowledge of survivability. But we will be talking in details about Spellbreaker specifically. So you need to make them waste way more skills just to keep you locked down. They have, as we explained, way more tools than what you have. They have more CC, more damage, more gap closer, so you can't simply start kiting them and thinking you will survive this easily. You would have to counter them by not allowing them to actually have it, like if they use bolt charge, that shouldn't be enough to lock you down and then keep bursting and you don't have any other kiting movement. They have to waste multiple skills just to pin you down. So, with managing distance and bowling cooldown from them more than they should. For example, if you land entangle, they have to use a mobility skill to get out of entangle, even if it doesn't get them close enough to you. If you stay farther from them and then change your position, they have to use more skills just to get to you. So you don't simply stick close and trade bunches with someone that you can't actually beat. Something like Saint of the Wild, they get an immobilize while they're chasing. Now they have to use a mobility skill to remove the immobilize early, even if it doesn't get them to you, even if it's a waste, something like that. So this idea of bowling them too much cooldowns, more than they should, is actually very efficient. Keep them chasing you, not you chasing them. So you end up controlling where the fight happens. So let's say I want to stand here. I get here and the warrior have to come to follow me. This is the idea of the one being chased can control the position and the start of the fight. Another point is, with this amount of CC and with this amount of damage, you can't avoid it. It will land and you should let it land. Only avoid things that actually matter and keep a way out. So try to avoid fall counter, but it's okay to trigger it, because something like entangle will trigger it. You don't have a hand in that. Something your bit will trigger it and will even get hit by it, resetting the other burst skills. But if you don't get hit by full counters, that means they will accidentally trigger for Mage Bane Tether on your bit, not on you, which means now it's on cooldown and you survive for the entire 12 seconds until it's reset again. And also pay attention to the heavy changes to the build. So if they run something like board charge, now you know the best gap closer with a dodge that will land a CC on you. The same way if you run something like Stump or Dolly Extents, now that means your CC most of them will be useless because they have way too much stability for you to manage around. If you see repetitive access with a long duration for resistance from multiple sources, then the immobilize will be difficult. Even if you CC them in order for them to not cleanse the immobilize with a mobility skill, it won't work anyway. So the moment they are dazed, they can simply dodge, not actually using a mobility skill, because mobilize doesn't work. So pay attention to the unique things about the build. Their weapons, their choices of some utility, if they are in Rampage for more CC and stability, like those important points that change a lot in the fight. You know they have probably, the ones they have dagger, you know they have bone remove, you know they have a lot of stability, you know they have CC. These are standard. You know they have the full counter, you know they have Mage Bane Tether. It's something you can guess even before you can see. But there's few things are not. For example, if they're running with Doliac Signet, so you find it on them, then you know there will be too much stability coming this. And try to create an opening when you can actually win. So they can remove your bones, even your stability and burst through it, even your protection and land their fall damage. But that doesn't mean they have enough bone removal and enough CC to go through all of it. So keep up the normal survivability stuff. Stay in the turtle bubble while trying to burst and leaving some of the damage land. It's okay. Just don't let them completely burst you down without doing anything about it. Again, react to specific skills. Rampage, for example, a good trick around it that you can land immobilize on them, you can make them stuck here, you can burst them, because they can't remove your stability inside Celestial Avatar the moment you're having this. They can't CC you, they can't reflect your hits, they will simply keep taking hits, they can't remove conditions, they can't do anything unless they leave the Rampage, which means you can land some of your damage efficiently and force other cooldowns the moment they leave the Rampage. The same thing is one of the key moments where you can win is to ruin the rotation completely. For example, is playing around their heal. So they will wait for your damage to land and then they will cleanse. They will wait for their health to go down and then they will heal. If you get to interrupt heal like Mending, which have quite a long cast time, so maybe you'll be able to, it's a 5 condition cleanses, it's a huge amount of healing and will ruin their the rotation or their play style and timing very well. However, you can do the same against Defiant Stance. They will absorb all the damage and it's have a very short cast time. It will always cast, you can't really play around it. However, they will leave you land a huge amount of damage and immediately cleanse after. Does that mean you shouldn't? No, actually you kinda should, because that means you force other cooldowns, and if you can CC them after it, you can start bursting again and continue the same style of control and damage. So without further ado, let's look into some fights with commentary to explain how I play around this and show you tricks to specific even against warriors. So this fight against good spellbreakers that actually count on stability and control more than anything. So it basically has this style of securing himself, not securing you down. And I noticed it quite early. I've seen him use Doliac Signet, for example. And as you see, he went on inside Rampage, so I burst immediately and try to keep him bursted or keep enough pressure so he have to waste a lot of cooldown for it. This will change to 1v2 later, and we'll be even looking at how to survive that. Right now, this Necro just fought a little and then will disengage, so he didn't do anything dangerous. And as you can see, I try to keep myself close to him, blind him, and do some pressure of chill and stuff. And then the moment I break out, I use Lightning Reflexes to immediately break the ball, try to create more distance. This idea of spinning around a player who play melee will make it even a little bit easier for you to avoid their hits, because they can't keep a good follow to you. And I continue the same. I use some tricks like leaving Celestial Avatar, like using the blind, trying to stealth with leaving Celestial Avatar sometimes. Like, I'm trying to keep the rhythm of the fight. And when I stand inside my field of the turtle for protection. And as you can see, the ping create a problem when I dodge a skill but still lands, which is an example of why I'm telling you it will land. You can't avoid it. You can't just play easily around everything they do. So now the fight changed to a 1v2 with a Herald enjoying it. So choose your target correctly. If you are in a 1v1, and even if you play with the conditioned druid, unless you can nullify a Spellbreaker easily, if you bring a Harbinger and you can corrupt his bones or something like that, the druid shall never choose his first target to be the Spellbreaker, so help him against another target. And that's the same thing I do here. It's very easy to kill a Herald. He's using Hammer even. This fight a bit old actually. So it was easy to neutralize the Herald, and that's why I choose him as the first target. And the moment he's down, I can manage to survive the Spellbreaker. And I'm trying to keep him down, so I'm focusing on controlling the revive by completely removing it if possible. And this is an example of how high the damage of Spellbreaker can do. 2 hits and my health is almost half. And again, the blind here to avoid the damage, change direction, force cooldowns even farther from the Spellbreaker. Daze was entering Celestial Avatar even while dodging, so to make sure it land. And now it changed the other way around. It's 2v1 to my advantage. So through CC and Immobilize, I will be controlling his distance very well. I landed the Immobilize here and the bones got corrupted by the Harbinger. And I caught him with another Immobilize. And even I will catch him with another stun while he trying to leave with a greatsword, and he was down. So this is how we survived. Keep changing direction, keep creating distance, and this is how we survived against a Spellbreaker, even with the fight actually being an outnumber fight. Now this is a kind of a duel or a 1v1 against the same Spellbreaker. But this time the fight will end by me. It will not change to anything, so it's not just about survivability. So I keep myself close to him with Mage Mid Tether, change direction, force more cooldown from him, immobilize him while he follow me, and then change direction again. But this was too early. I should have waited a bit that he would follow, but I saw the Rampage, so I was afraid that he will land the CC easier. So blind him inside this CC, inside his burst, and again try to stay a little bit close, immobilize again with the healing, and then avoid him. And as you see, entangle trigger fall counter, even so I don't hit him myself, which is a problem we have as Droid. And he removed my stability, as you can see, and landed his burst completely easy with it. Change direction again, start healing, make him go through all this health again and again as much as possible. CC with Celestial Avatar, complete the burst if possible, and try to heal through that, secure myself with the turtle, and heal through the protection. I'm keeping myself close as long as I'm tethered, and CC him. Dodge the CC this time, so he actually landed it on my bit. Like I said, if you avoid the full counter, your bit will take it, now you're safe for a few seconds. Change to another bit, so he can ball him. land in full counter, but he have resistance, landing in tangle, but he had resistance, land in another CC, trying to burst while stuck in place, while he can freely land his burst on me. I let him ball and immediately break from it, dodge and create more distance, so he'd have to waste more cooldowns. These, and burst a little. And if you notice at this point, he heal and cleanse, I heal and cleanse. I create distance, now he have mobility of cooldown, and he can use them again. This can keep going forever. I don't have enough damage to actually kill him or simply ignore what he's doing, and he don't have enough ways to lock me in, because I can avoid every time he try to go for me or use another ability. He have to waste some of his mobility skill, his CC skill, simply while I'm close, and then I can move again, and then I can heal again or try to reset the fight. I can still while avoiding Mage Tether sometimes, which means I can change or reposition myself well. So the only way to win at this point is one of us have to make a mistake. For me, the mistake will be for him to be a little bit greedy, which what will allow me to keep his health low and ruin his rotation, if you might say. I will be able, like I said, to interrupt his heal. So I also switch weapon next to him, land this little bit of burst while you're walking away, the condition is sticking and he have to cleanse him, he have to waste more cooldown. Even try to force him to stay inside my immobilize, like the Signet, as I did here, and he fell for it. So even if he's not affected by immobilize, he will still eat the damage, and I successfully interrupted his healing. He ate too much damage while standing inside my immobilize, because even if the immobilize, remember, even if the immobilize can't affect him because of resistance or whatever, it will still trigger Blood Moon if for every time he take immobilize. And with enough damage, and he couldn't heal, he couldn't reset the fight as he do, he ate enough damage to simply lose the fight. If he didn't make this mistake, if he didn't go this greedy, if he avoided the immobilize and didn't simply ignore that it's happening, thinking he will over cleanse this damage, this fight would have never been over. Now let me give you an example on actually fighting a Spellbreaker that can't play to this level. It's normal rotation. Now I need to cleanse, and I will cleanse. Now I can burst, so I will burst. Something like that, which how most fights against a warrior would actually end. Like I said, it have to be a top warrior to make it this difficult. So I engaged a Holosmith first, and then got engaged with a staff warrior that helped him around. So the Holosmith didn't have that much survivability and ate a lot of damage, which make it a little bit easy to get him down. And now the warrior moved in to try to support him. So with CC and blinding, I was able to counter their ability to stop me from finishing. And the warrior doesn't have so much. He wastes cooldown simply to try to catch me and then to try to save his friends. And it was so easy to get him down. And this is most fights against a warrior will end this way. I interrupt the other Holosmith even while under control. We have explained this in the survival video. You need to check it out probably. Switch weapon, dodge, and make it out of this, since it started becoming way too much enemies for me to handle while I having cooldowns. Now for other warrior style, not actually Spellbreaker, they share some similarities. It's just not as excessive as Spellbreaker. So for Berserker, they have the advantage of damage, the primer burst, and the efficiency of it, as you can see this one here. So they still have enough mobility to survive, and still have enough stability, resistance. And as you can see, because he runs staff, he have the reflect, so there's not much I can do. I have to switch weapon in order to remove the ages. And the moment I find him finished a lot of this, I immediately lock him down with my bit removing the edges, and I burst him as hard as possible, but he turned all my damage into healing and remove all condition immediately. Is a trick I told you. But I can't lock him now, since he's next to his gate it seemed like he still have a lot of cooldowns already came off, and there's too many guards, so there's not much I can do. Lock him down. And this is another example when he is come for me and I need to survive him. So I apply some pressure and try to heal around, trying to secure my siege, but now I'm engaged with a catalyst with him. So now too much CC, too much mobility for both classes, I need to kite away. I try to create a distance between me and the catalyst and immobilize him. I fail a bit and again focus on the distance, but I get huge burst with condition and I don't want to waste some cooldown, or the Spellbreaker or the Berserker will actually hold me down. So I navigate around them with the terrain to my advantage, create distance when I need to, avoid the CC and create some huge distance, try to catch them again, avoid most of the damage, trigger the stability and change direction, and now I can choose another location. I get an ally to help me, so now we can burst them and I don't fight alone anymore. They easily overpowered the catalyst. He was a bit squishy and he wasted a lot of cooldown, and now we'll see an immobilize after immobilize on the Berserker. I kept him stuck in place with daze and immobilize, and he couldn't survive all of us. He didn't probably have the cooldowns to react to this fight. This time I had a duel with him. It was actually one duel and my game disconnected after I wanted to have multiple fights against this guy. Hopefully he would have been using multiple builds, but we only had one duel. So I remove his ages, I stay close in order to trigger some melee hits, but now since I have wasted most of my short bow skill, I have my Celestia avatar was on cooldown, so I create a distance and then go in again the moment this situation changed. Try to rock him down with a complete burst, which allow me to remove the block again, and a huge amount of burst, and it was easily ended. Berserker does not have the amount of CC or control a Spellbreaker can offer, which means he cannot remove my boons, he cannot navigate around my stability, and I don't fear their own CC because it is limited and I can stun break after it. This is another example against another Berserker, which I again try to lock him down, burst right through his burst, blind, more immobilize, make him stick inside it. I burst even through his heal because he would have to, even if he cleanse it, he would have a huge amount of burst and I can completely follow up, and he didn't have a follow up of survivability. His skill was simply gaining time through healing with my damage happening to him. So this is the second duel against the same Berserker, and again I avoid his try to avoid his CC. It lands, so I end up CCing him. Try to burst inside his own hits because I can heal, I can have blind, my damage, we can trade blows basically, because he can't have that much follow-up as much as Spellbreaker can. He cannot even have as much cleanses, as much pressure. So he eat all of it, trade in bunches, and you can outplay a warrior simply by your damage against his. And this is basically an example on most warrior fights. This is how would you play if you can really navigate them. It's only very good players that can put you in this difficult position. So that's it for the video. I hope you like what you watch, and I hope you found it helpful. Leave your comments, questions and tips if you want in the comment section, and I'll be seeing you next time. Peace.